Hello, this is another video of games I made. Travis from evolvingdeveloper.com. This is the fourth game I made in 2015. Called, I was not very good with names, still not very good with names. It's called Evolve or Die. It's a pretty simple concept. You're a little square. You eat blue dots and get bigger. There's red dots that significantly shrink you. If you get hit by a square that's larger than you, you get destroyed and you lose. I think I have it if you destroy all the enemy yellow squares, which move around randomly, then you win. If you notice, it says published 1 year ago. This was April 1st, 2015 that I published it to itch.io, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But for now, let's see the game. So it's all designed around touch input, which is also mouse input. So you tap to start, you get the instructions. Wherever you click on the screen is where it moves. Small blue dots, when you eat 10, you get bigger. As you move over them, you eat them. If you grow enough times, if you get big enough, you just win from getting big enough. And then there's some small red dots, and they shrink you down several times. Yellow squares are enemies. Run into one that's bigger than you. It'll eat you. If you hit an enemy, you both start reducing each other in size. So even though you eat an enemy, you don't get bigger. You actually go back down in size. So even if you hit a smaller enemy, they still hurt your chances of winning. So we'll get started. And it just moves where you last clicked or touched, so you just keep moving. There's not clear visible boundaries, but there's an actual boundary on the edge. Let's get see, I got a little bit bigger. And it's sort of a little bit of a win more game, because as you, well, it's a little more dangerous, but as you eat more little blue dots, you get bigger and it becomes easier. Well, you also move slower too. I forgot to mention that. That was one of the things. It's like, oh, you're bigger, you're gonna move slower. But it's also easier to eat dots when you're bigger, because they can be a little hard to hit whenever you're that small little thing. And make sure that there's always stuff to be eating. They're constantly randomly populating. There's a fixed number. Oh, yeah, I just hit the enemy and I got shrunk down. But yeah, there's a fixed number, and they randomly are populated throughout. There's a fixed number of red ones too. One of the dangers as you get bigger is that you can like run over some red one that gets spawned accidentally, and it's hard to, yeah. So ate enough, got big enough, and done. This one was kind of interesting. I was mainly focused on like touch input and teaching myself about the camera and moving the camera with the player, so that you could have bigger than just the default 640 by 480 canvas that Monkey by default uses for its HTML5 games. Now I'm going to talk a little more about why I pointed out the date. After I made this game, not very long after I made this game, I saw a very similar looking game come out on Steam, and I think it's pretty interesting that this other developer came up with a similar idea, although I will say they implemented it 1,000 times better and made it multiplayer and made it very interesting and fun. It's called agar.io. I think, I have no idea how to pronounce that right. It's Brazilian. You can play as guest, but essentially you're a little circle. You move through this space eating dots and getting bigger, although there's other players out there who can eat you and then they get bigger. if they're larger than you, and smaller people move faster. Same idea, and but there's some other interesting things you can do with this one. It just follows your cursor. You don't have to click like you did in mine. I'm not sure how it would play mobile, but it's very interesting. It's very fun. I found it very enjoyable to just play. You can come in and play as a guest and just roam around. There's people with their little custom stuff. And the way you catch smaller guys who are faster than you is if you get close to them, you can shoot out some mass at them like that. And that's how you just kind of catches up to smaller ones. You'd be like, this big guy here, I run into him, then I lose. But yeah, this is basically the same idea. But back to why I mentioned the dates of the game. You notice, I remember, go back over here, it says a year ago, it's April 1st, 2015 is when I put it out here. According to Wikipedia, I don't know how reliable this is, the Steam version of Agar.io was announced on May 3rd, so it was a month afterwards. And it was first announced online on April 27th, so almost a month after I put my game out on itch.io. I don't think they stole the idea. It wouldn't have crossed my mind. I think it was just two people coming up with a similar idea at similar times, which I found is really interesting. I really like the way they took the idea. That's really, if my skill level was higher, that's the kind of idea I would have liked, and I really, really like what they did. So this is the game that I made, but if you want a really good version of it and you want to play multiplayer and all that, check out agar.io. You can find it on Steam, and you can play it for free online here. And that's all for now. See you next time.